Good evening. We bring you the latest in the world of sports. I'm Paulo Del Rosario.
We give you the conversations you want to hear from your favorite sports icons and athletes. I'm Lara Lehman. In tonight's game plan, the newest pearl of the Perlas Spikers, Joe Maraguinot, joins us tonight live.
We'll also talk about the New Orleans Pelicans' big win over the Boston Celtics today, led by Zion Williamson, who has been playing at another level lately in his sophomore year.
And after another historic triple-double performance from Russell Westbrook, we'll break down what it takes to be a top point guard in the NBA. Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game. The Eagle Claw has landed. Joe Maraguinot, fondly called as the Eagle Claw by fans, has reached the shores of Team Perlas as announced by her new squad. The UAAP champion, last seen in season 82 as a super senior, finds a new home with the black and white. Maraguinot is Perlas' seventh key addition since 2020. With renewed Pearl power, the Batangueña Spiker joins us to share her excitement to be part of the Perlas Spikers and her imminent return to the Premier Volleyball League. Jo, welcome to the game.
Hi!
Hi, Jo. Long time no see, ah. Kamusta naman dyan? How have you been?
Okay naman. Nag-training lang sa bahay.
Well, Joe, we had great conversations right before we went on air. So tell us a bit about yung time mo before you got into this whole before you got into Perlas. Kasi we still saw you train, we still saw you keep in shape. How difficult was that siguro training, even knowing that yun nga, you weren't part of a team just yet?
Actually, hindi yun yung focus ko eh. Because during quarantine, my injury relapsed. So, parang my focus was doing rehab for my knee. So, wala sa isip ko yung I have to be in a team. Parang my focus was to myself na I have to be prepared. I have to be 100% when a team recruits me. Parang ganun.
Well, Jo, alam ko, ECQ ngayon, so obviously nobody's practicing. Pero bago mag-ECQ, were you able to meet some of your teammates and join some of their practices or wala pa mga ganyan?
Actually, wala. Because we fixed everything lang, as in right before, like the day before mag-quarantine. So parang while we were fixing it, biglang nag-announce na ECQ. So parang, okay. Like, we didn't know what to do. So, see you in 2 weeks.
Well, Joe, we all know that this is sobrang fresh na news. And we also know that there are rumors going around that people were courting you in terms of your services, in terms of what team you could play for. I like how natawa ka when I said courting you. You know what I mean, Joe. You really know what I mean. So, looking at the whole situation, we know you ended up with Perlas, but can you tell us what was going through your mind throughout this process? Were you talking to any other groups? And what was the main deciding factor that made you choose Perlas?
Well, meron namang ibang teams, but like, because I was hesitant kasi because of my injury nga. So parang I was okay naman with training, ganyan. But then, when Perlas talked to me, parang, ano ba? Parang, binigyan nila ako ng, to me, it looks like they gave me an opportunity to play in my own space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, parang I told them about my injuries, ganyan, and they were willing to help naman with the rehab and conditioning. So parang, and because it's Ate Cha, like si Ate Charo Soriano was isa siya sa kumausap sa akin. So parang medyo dahil familiar how do you call it? Well, it's familiar to me. So parang medyo magaan yung loob ko.
So may comfort level dun.
Yeah.
And looking at yung injury mo, you mentioned your injury quite a lot already tonight. And I just want to ask, siguro, where are you in yung process mo of being rehabilitated, of being 100%? Because right now it seems that it is a big issue that you had to consider before even joining Perlas.
Because before, so yun yung talagang nagpa-stop sa akin maglaro. So parang medyo na-trauma ako. So parang now, even though okay yung trainings ko, yung conditioning ko, parang it's really different when you play in a tournament. And dun kasi din, usually dun nagre-relapse yung injury ko. So wala, talagang parang traumatizing lang siya for me. So,
Well, now, Joe, that I guess we're moving on and sana magiging okay na yung injury mo. Obviously, we're very excited for you to show your skills in the upcoming PVL conference. Pero medyo, siguro, I don't know if naninibago ka because this time you're going to be facing your former teammates. So, you're gonna face Coach Tai, your Creamline Ates, si Coach O
yeah.
naman, nandyan siya sa Choco Mucho. So, hindi ba awkward yun? Kasi parang, yung mga kalaban mo are your really good friends.
Actually, it's exciting for me. And they messaged me nga. Parang, so like, congrats na ako, ganyan. Tapos parang halos lahat sila, I'm excited to beat you. Ganyan. Parang gano'n. Parang ngayon pa lang nag-aasara na kami. So parang, sige, see you.
So who are you excited to beat? They're excited to beat you, but who are you excited
Lahat sila. Kasi nahiwalay ako eh.
Well, you know,
All right, go ahead, Pao.
Go ahead, Lau. Oh, okay, sure. Now, Joe, looking at yung team mo ngayon, is there anyone in particular that you're most excited to play for, most excited to learn from, na siguro hindi mo na-encounter before?
Actually, wala pa akong naging teammate sa kanila. So, I mean, with Ate Jem, I haven't really played with her. So, parang excited ako to play with everyone talaga. Kasi nakakalaban ko lang sila eh. So, never ko pa silang nakasama even outside the court. So, parang ngayon, if sila na yung kasama ko lagi, parang it's really exciting for me.
Well, speaking of that lineup, Joe, I mean, I noticed the players there, and there's 6 mainstays, but 7 of you guys are new. And I guess, from my perspective, hindi ba mahirap yun? Kasi, obviously, you can't practice together at this time. You just see each other on the computer. So, paano naman yung chemistry niyo? Do you talk to each other via Viber or may Zoom trainings ba kayo ngayon?
Well, dahil bago pa lang ako, so wala pa. I haven't joined yung sabay-sabay na training. Pero I guess we have time naman before the tournament. And and I know naman na everyone's really kind. So madali namang mag-gel with them.
Of course. And Joe, this has been a strange journey for you in terms of yung rehab mo, in terms of getting back into shape. And you did that all in the middle of a pandemic. Now, from the last time we saw you hit the volleyball court, my question is, how different is Jo Maraguinot today compared to the last time we saw her on the court?
Why are you laughing, Joe?
Kaya mo yan!
May something ba?
Wala. Well, I guess now, mas confident ako and mas eager to play because parang so it's like a year na 1 year na after we played, so parang larong-laro na and mas confident because yun nga, nakakapag-focus ako sa sarili ko, sa mga injuries ko. Like I think ready na din talaga yung Pilipinas.
Well, totoo naman, Joe. Ready na yung Pilipinas to see you once again. So excited na kaming lahat. Maraming salamat, Joe.
Lahat ng players excited na yan.
Oh, may konting giggle rin. And you know what, Joe? It's so great to talk to you. It's so great to hear from you again. It's so great to know that very soon, makakita ka namin on the court once again. From traumatized to tough like a pearl. Joe Maraguinot now with Perlas. Oh, you like that? You like that, right? Caption mo na yun sa next post mo. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And we hope to hear from you again soon. Now, when we return, we'll check in with NBA Hype host Tyler Tio to talk about his thoughts on the surging Zion Williamson after the Pelicans' big win over the Celtics. Welcome back. You're watching the game. The New Orleans Pelicans have now won 4 of their last 5 games after beating down the Boston Celtics today, 115 to 109. The Pelicans improved their record as they chased the 8th seed in the Western Conference. And once again, it was super sophomore Zion Williamson leading the way. Finishing today's game with 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 steals, fans are looking at his last 5 games as Zion unleashed, delivering on the promise of his potential since his entry into the league. Now, joining us to discuss his hot streak and his superstar potential in only his second year, let's welcome NBA hype analyst Tyler Tio. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, man? Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you
First of
for.
all, I never thought I'd be introduced as an analyst, as an NBA analyst or a host. So let's not
Hey.
forget, guys, I'm still an aspiring basketball player, by the way.
Yeah. No, I know, but we got your role in. You're already part of NBA hype, so we gotta hype that up as well. And
Thank
you know,
you.
it's as much
And
as
you're not aspiring,
maybe
by the way, Tyler.
he is. He is
I was
now.
gonna say
mean,
he's not aspiring, he is
aspiring
one. You
pro-
are a basketball
pro-
Yeah,
player.
aspiring pro. That's fair. That's fair. But can I just say, Tyler, if you didn't expect to be introduced as an analyst, at this point of your career, we didn't expect that we'd have a broadcast straight from someone's shoe closet, because that is a great looking pair of looking kicks in your background. But let's go straight to it. Zion Williamson doing really great in the past few games. A lot of people, especially last year, look. This is how popular he was. Lau said that out of all the rookies that came out last year, he's the only one that she remembered. So Zion really has that recall factor, that superstar factor. Is he there yet? Is he already should be considered a superstar, or is he just a highlight reel machine that doesn't get W's that matter yet?
Well, first of all, as we all know, he was super hyped coming out of high school, possibly the most hyped since LeBron James. And I was a believer ever since. And people were saying he was a little bit overrated. They were scared that he was too out of shape. But thankfully now he's proven that, he is a star. For me, in my eyes, he's a star right now. And I think Rick Carlisle mentioned that he has Shaq's brute force, but with point guard skills. And I think that perfectly sums up his game. And me personally, he reminds me a little bit of Charles Barkley, but even more athletic and physically gifted. So, I mean, you just have to look at his last 5 games. He's averaging 32.4 a game, 7.6 rebounds, 4 assists. And on the season, he's averaging 26.7 boards and 3.5 assists. And if that's not a superstar, I don't know what is.
All right.
So
So
Tyler,
looking,
why would you say he's so unique? Is it because, he is built like an American football player, but I mean he can still jump and he's agile and all of that? Is that basically what makes him stand out?
That his physical attributes for sure, because he's like 280 to 300 pounds, 6'6", and he can jump out of the gym. But not just that, he's also skilled. So he's not just a freak athlete. He's also, I mean, he's good with the ball. He has handles. He can pass out of tight situations, as shown by his assist averages. So yeah,
Mhm.
And what
well,
do you
look.
think about his maturity though?
his maturity.
Yeah. Because I know
Well,
he's young and he's meant to be a leader on this team.
uh-huh. I mean, the Pelicans they're not doing too bad. I think they're about 3 games behind the eighth seed in the West, so they still have a chance to make it to the playoffs. And I think that's as good as it gets right now, because the West is super stacked, and the fact that they're right there in the mix means that they're doing really well. And he's only in his second year, and in terms of maturity, he's probably not on the levels of a LeBron or a Chris Paul in terms of leadership, but I see him being more vocal on the floor. Physical maturity is there because he basically just bullies grown men in the NBA. So yeah.
Remember, he was already physically mature coming out of high school, apparently. Just look at his size. We were just looking at the photos there, and the size of his shoulders, basically the size of our heads combined. Now, looking at what the Zion Williamson has done in the past 5 games, is there anything different? Because people are saying that, okay, Zion unleashed. He's flipped a switch, he's turned a corner. Are you buying into that, or is he just having, just one of those good run of games that NBA players typically have?
I think it's a mix of both, because he's flipped the switch in terms of his aggression, maybe a little bit, because as you can see by his scoring numbers, I mean, he dropped 39, 38, 28, 30, 27. And what separates him from other scorers is his efficiency. Like, he's shooting 67% from the field. That's crazy. And he's taking so many shots. He's taking a beating in the paint every game, and he's still shooting basically 70%. That's unheard of.
Well, Tyler, what would you say is his ceiling to all of this? I mean, is he an all-star? Is he a superstar? Is he the next LeBron James? What's your take on all of that?
Uh, well, I'm a LeBron James fan, so I won't call him the next LeBron James. But I will say that I think his ceiling is all NBA MVP. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer if he just follows his trajectory. He has nowhere to go but up. He's only on his second year. And in terms of numbers, I mean, this is probably nitpicking a bit too much, but I think if he averages like maybe a couple more rebounds a game, get that average to 10, maybe a block and a steal per game, or if he improves his defensive abilities, because he has the physical tools to do so, similar to like a Draymond, I think he can win MVP in the near future. And of course, that has to depend also on whether or not his team is winning.
Well, that you compared him to Charles Barkley, and I wholeheartedly agree with that comparison, even more than the Shaq one. But then, Charles Barkley didn't end up winning a ring. Do you feel that Zion Williamson is the type of character, is the type of guy? I know this is very early in his career, but do you think he's the type of guy that will actually be able to will a team to a championship, or do you feel that he'll need a lot more help than what he has in general, maybe in the next few years?
Um, that's tough to answer right now, because if you look at the landscape of the NBA, it's full of super teams. So I think the reality is he probably won't be able to do it by himself, but I think he can be the lead guy on a stacked team. That's how good he is. But in terms of just carrying a team by himself, might not be realistic, because today's NBA is full of super teams, and guys just team up together to win that ring.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tyler, for your insights. I'm a Zion fan, so it's always nice to hear someone talk about him.
Same,
Now,
same.
after the break, As Russell Westbrook tallies another historic triple-double in the NBA, Tyler Teo once again will help us break down what it takes to be a top point guard in the league. Stay tuned, you're watching The Game.
Welcome back to The Game. It's a historic day in the capital of the free world as Russell Westbrook just made it sweeter in the Chocolate City with another monstrous triple-double. Westbrook rewrote history books with his stat line of 35 points, 14 rebounds, and a career-high 21 assists against the Indiana Pacers. This is the first 30-10-20 triple-double since Magic Johnson's in 1988. The Brody is now back to averaging triple-double numbers for the fourth time in the last 5 seasons. Now, Russ might be a huge catch in the fantasy world, but what does it really take to be a top point guard in the NBA today? Now, still here to help us with our discussion, we have NBA hype analyst Tyler Teo. I know you're still getting used to the title NBA hype analyst, but that's what you are. Let us focus on what Russell Westbrook has done first before we move on to anything else. That triple-double by Westbrook, just how incredible is it from a basketball standpoint?
I mean, super incredible because it's so hard, especially in the NBA. I'm sure it's so hard to score 30 and get just 10 assists basically. But he did. He dropped 35, got more than 20 assists, and still got a triple double on top of that. That's just it just goes to show how talented he is, how physically gifted and skilled of a player Russell Westbrook is. And I mean, sometimes we forget that because there's so many other talented point guards in the NBA these days that guys really get overlooked.
Well, when we talk about point guards, in your opinion, how would you define a pure or excellent point guard? I mean, does he have to be a leader on the court? Does he have to be the one that passes the ball the most and not necessarily a scorer? What's your take on that?
It depends because if you're talking about a pure point guard, there's many definitions kasi. So my definition is a pure point guard is someone who runs the coach's system. He's an extension of the coach on the floor, and at all times he's trying to look for the best shot for his team. It might not be him, or it might be him if he has a mismatch, but bottom line, he's trying to get a bucket for his team in the most efficient way possible.
And I contrast that to a points guard because that's a running joke that we get a lot here in the Philippines. You're a point guard or a points guard. What is that?
Well, a points guard is someone who is basically a scorer first. And me personally, I don't see anything wrong with either because you can be a points guard and be efficient and still be able to facilitate for your team. And you can also be a pure point guard, but also be a great scorer, be an efficient scorer. And I actually have names in mind for those guys, but yeah.
All right. So you
No, go
name them
ahead,
first.
name them.
Yeah, name them, and then I'm really curious to see whether or not you include yourself in the points guard category.
Well, I'm not gonna answer that. I'm not gonna fall into that trap. I'm gonna let me. I'm just trying to do whatever is needed of me. I try my best to be pure point guard in that definition, to just run the system of the coach and take my opportunities when they're there. And yeah, in terms of the list, I would say the top pure point guards in the NBA, probably Chris Paul, and honestly, he might be the only one left unless you consider guys like Ben Simmons as a pure point guard. He doesn't
Hmm.
have the prototypical size, but in terms of style, I think he's more of a facilitator than a scorer.
Mhm.
Well, we talked about pure point guards, and I don't know what the contrast of that be impure point guards. I don't know what the term for it is exactly, but over the years, I think even in Ateneo, your team, and even in the Philippines in general, people are playing this version of positionless basketball, where you don't necessarily have one point guard, but everyone's facilitating and everyone's scoring. So how do you think that works out? Do you prefer being on a team like that? Or do you like being on a team where there's, a designated pure point guard and designated players for each position?
Uh, well, you're first of all, you're super on the money there because today's NBA, today's game in general is so different from before because everyone's so skilled. They can do multiple things, and point guards can score, scorers can play point guard. That's why it's positionless. And for my preference, I don't really prefer any. I'd like to think that I'd be able to play in both types of systems because in high school I was more of a scorer, and in
Mhm.
college I had to adjust to being more of a facilitator and a point guard.
Mhm. Well, looking at the way the league is right now, people always look at the Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, and we all know that those guys are the first point guards or score first guards. And you mentioned a while ago that maybe the only pure point guard left might be Chris Paul. I would argue maybe you can put Ricky Rubio in that conversation. I would also
Ricky
argue,
Rubio.
even some of the lower tier guys, maybe a TJ
Mhm.
McConnell. But looking at the best point guards out there, if you could create the perfect NBA point guard, let's say you can take an attribute from one player and all that, create your own Frankenstein of a point
Okay.
guard. What parts of these players would you put into possibly the best point guard ever?
Ooh, this is fun. This is fun. I, I would take Russell Westbrook's athleticism,
Okay.
um, and then I'd take Steph Curry's shooting,
Okay.
Kyrie Irving's handles,
All right.
and then LeBron James's basketball IQ,
Okay.
and CP3's leadership. There we
All
go.
right.
There we
All
go.
right. That makes sense. I would add one more to make it more perfect, though. Simmons' size.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, Ben
Yeah,
Simmons' size. I think you put that all together. That you basically have a cheat code right there. But
yeah.
I think that's a lot of fun. I think that's a lot of fun. But
Mhm.
okay, so looking at we're talking so much about point guards, and in the Philippines there's just so many point guards. Any message to those young hoopers out there who want to be playing at a different level in a country full of guards?
Um, I think the best message would be to, well, of course, you have the basics and the usual stuff that people say, which are true. I mean, just keep working hard, keep working on your craft, um, and basically, yeah. Aside from that, though, I would say don't put yourself in a box. So don't limit yourself to just, let's say, being a shooter or just being a facilitator. If if you can be if you can be a shooter and a facilitator at the same time, or if you can be a slasher at the same time, then why not? And aside from that, I think just play your game, and yeah, just trust your game. I think that would be the best advice for them. Trust the
Well,
work, trust
I
the
think
game.
that's such good advice, because especially now, sometimes when players move from the collegiate to pro level, their positions get kind of mixed up. So it's
Mhm.
important that they're well-rounded players. So great advice, and thank you very much, Tyler, for joining us. We look forward to having you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. See you guys.
And as for you all, thank you for watching. I'm Laura Lehman.
And my name is Paulo De Rosario. This has been The Game.